Imagine standing at the shoreline and you're holding a treasure chest in your hands. The waves rise and fall. They're tugging at the sand beneath your feet. The chest in your hands is everything you value. It's your identity, your achievements, the roles you play in this life. You clutch it tightly. You're afraid to let go. The way it anchors you, but as the tide rises, you feel it starting to pull you under. And the question comes, what if I loosened my grip? And what if the act of release, instead of ending up in loss, actually was the key to true freedom? You see, this struggle is deeply human. We all have our chests, these things that we hold onto tightly because they make us feel secure and valued. It's part of our identity. They may be roles like the perfect parent, the dependable friend, or the successful provider. They could even be the plans that you have for the future, the achievements of the past, or maybe even relationships you fostered. And these things, they aren't inherently bad, but when we start to cling to them a little too tightly, they start to define us. And the tighter we hold on, the more their weight begins to drag us down into the waves. You see, King Herod's story from this past Sunday sermon in Matthew chapter 2 offers a cautionary tale. Herod's crown, or his chest, wasn't just a symbol of power, it was his entire identity. And so the moment he heard of a newborn king, his grip on his chest, on his throne tightened, and he couldn't imagine a world where his role wasn't secure, and his fear over this drove him to deception and eventually destruction and devastation. Herod's story is extreme, but the heart of his struggle is universal. We're all going to face moments where our sense of security and identity is threatened, and we have to choose. Will we choose to grip on tighter, allowing it for the waves to take us under, or will we trust God with this thing? You see, letting go doesn't mean giving up, but it is an act of surrender that's trusting God and that His hands are stronger than our own. You may remember the story of Abraham, who modeled this beautifully when God asked him to sacrifice his son Isaac, the son of promise. Abraham, he didn't know how God would fulfill his plan, but he trusted the one who gave the promise. And his willingness to release what he held most dear allowed for him to see God's faithfulness in a profound way. This past Sunday in Revelation chapter 4, verses 10 through 11, we see it say that the 24 elders laid their crowns before the throne, and they said things like this: "You are worthy, our Lord and God, to receive glory and honor and power, for you created all things, and by your will they were created and have their being." You see, their act of placing their crowns before Him wasn't one of loss, but of worship. They recognized that their crowns were not their own to cling to. They belonged at the feet of the one who holds all authority and power. And so the same is true for us. When we loosen our grip on our crowns from this past Sunday sermon, or our chests from today, we make space for God to work in and through us. The weight that we've carried, whether it's the need for control, the fear of failure, the pressure to measure up to the world's standards, not even to talk about our own standards we set for ourselves, they begin to lift and we find freedom, not because we've solved everything or have everything, but because we've placed everything in the God who can. And so imagine walking away from that shoreline. Yes, the chest is gone, but your hands are open, your heart is unburdened. Imagine trading the heaviness of control for peace. Because letting go doesn't mean losing. It means discovering a life where the weight is carried by the one who holds all things together, and our identity and our value comes through Him and not the things we hold. And so maybe an engagement question, maybe for you to reflect on today, or if you want to answer in the Church Center app, feel free. But what is an area of your life where you may be gripping a little too tightly? And how can you trust and release it into God's hands this week? Feel free to put it on the Church Center app, or at the very least, I'd love for you to consider and pray over certain aspects of our life, certain crowns, thrones, or chests, whatever analogy you want to use, that we're clinging to and that we need to put before the throne, the King over all.